Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely pumped you're hanging out with us today because we're about to do something genuinely fascinating. We're synthesizing a mountain of global data, research, and expert projections to figure out exactly what life is going to look like by the end of this decade. We're looking at the whole shebang, from the shifting balance of global power down to the actual technology you'll be using at your desk. It's a structured, data-driven journey into tomorrow. Let's get into it.
Right off the bat, I want you to take a quick second. Close your eyes if you have to. What will your world look like in 2030? Think about your morning routine, your job, the city you live in, the economy you're a part of. It's not that far away, right? Just a few years. But the sheer velocity of change we're experiencing means the reality of 2030 is going to feel remarkably different from today.
Okay, let's dive into this. When we talk about the future, it's so easy to drift into wild sci-fi tropes. But futurist Peter Fisk hit the nail on the head. He points out that, look, we aren't going to be fighting off alien invasions or living entirely as androids. Instead, our reality is going to be reshaped by quantum computing, gene editing, AI-enhanced decisions, and 3D printed food. The changes are deeply practical, highly technological, but fundamentally, we're still going to be human.
To make sense of all this, here is our macro to micro roadmap for today. We've got 1. Shifting global economic power. 2. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. 3. The demographic tipping point. 4. The next internet era. And finally, 5. Work in the AI age.
Section 1. Shifting global economic power, or the diffusion of dominance. So looking at some absolutely fascinating data from Knowledge for Policy, we are right in the middle of a massive economic tectonic shift. Actually, it's more like a giant economic seesaw. Back in 2015, the G7 advanced economies and the E7 emerging economies were roughly equal in economic size. But look at the trajectory heading toward 2040. The projection is that the E7 group, so countries like China, India, Indonesia, Brazil, they could literally be double the size of the G7. Asia alone might surpass North America and Europe combined in terms of global power, all driven by higher economic growth, larger populations, and a massive surge in tech investment.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these macro shifts actually translate into everyday life. Based on Peter Fisk's analysis of World Economic Forum predictions, by 2030, we might see the death of traditional shopping. Products become services, meaning you just rent what you need on demand rather than owning it. We could see a global price on carbon as nations are basically forced to ditch fossil fuels. We're also going to see power diffuse away from just central governments into these amorphous networks of non-state actors. And, incredibly, experts predict that highly educated populations displaced by conflict, like today's Syrian refugees, will come of age and integrate as the future CEOs of 2030.
Moving right along to Section 2, Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. Think of this as a national case study.
For decades, Saudi Arabia's economy has been, frankly, completely tethered to oil. Historically, oil was accounted for about 43% of their real GDP and a massive 75% of fiscal revenue. Economists call this the resource curse, basically having all your economic eggs in one very volatile basket, leaving the country super vulnerable to global price swings. So, the absolute core priority for Saudi Arabia right now is to rapidly diversify its revenue away from oil. They're pivoting hard to alternative sources like foreign investment, taxes, and a heavily strengthened private sector.
Let's move to Saudi and see how this builds over time. Vision 2030 was officially announced back in 2016 to completely overhaul the country's economic and social footprint over 14 years. It is a massive, multi-tiered initiative. Take 2022, for example, when they launched the Nusuk digital platform. This digitized and streamlined the entire experience for pilgrims traveling for Hajj and Umrah. It's a huge pivot toward modernizing their massive religious tourism sector. And it all points toward that ultimate 2030 target, a totally diversified, non-oil-dependent economy.
To actually make this happen, the Saudi government built this blueprint on 3 core pillars. First up, a vibrant society, which focuses heavily on urbanism, culture, entertainment, and boosting life expectancy. Second, a thriving economy, aiming to boost employment, bring in foreign direct investment, and really ramp up their international competitiveness. And third, an ambitious nation, focusing on government effectiveness, non-oil revenues, and slick e-government services. It is literally a ground-up blueprint for national transformation.
Section 3. The Aging World. I really want you to take a second and absorb this statistic from the World Health Organization. By the year 2030, 1 in 6 people in the world will be aged 60 years or over. Let that sink in. That is an increase from 1 billion back in 2020 to 1.4 billion people globally by the end of this decade. And by the way, 2/3 of that over 60 population, they're going to live in low and middle income countries. We are experiencing a demographic shift at a pace way, way faster than ever before in human history.
And this brilliantly illustrates why our entire conversation around health absolutely has to change. As populations age, we see a big rise in what the WHO calls geriatric syndromes. These are really complex health states, things like frailty or a higher risk of falls, resulting from multiple underlying factors. Because let's face it, a longer life only really brings opportunities if those extra years are lived in good health. That's why the UN designated this period as the decade of healthy aging. The goal here isn't just treating diseases anymore. It's about developing communities, integrated care, and environments that actually support and foster the abilities of older people.
All right, shifting gears to Section 4, the next internet era, hyperconnectivity.
By 2030, our internet connectivity is going to be incredibly fast and astonishingly reliable. We are looking at the rollout of 6G networks, which are expected to deliver speeds up to 100 times faster than your current 5G. Crazy, right? Now combine that with low Earth orbit satellite constellations, think Starlink, that literally blanket the globe, and we are looking at near instantaneous global coverage. Latency is going to drop to mere milliseconds, real-time, high-bandwidth communication everywhere, all the time.
Because we'll have this massive invisible pipeline of data flowing everywhere, the lines between the physical and digital worlds are going to completely blur. We'll see an evolution across 3 distinct reality technologies that'll just become everyday tools. First, virtual reality, giving us fully immersive digital environments for meetings and collaboration. Second, augmented reality, using glasses or maybe even contacts to overlay digital data, like navigation or product specs, right onto our physical world. And third, mixed reality, where you're actually interacting with physical and virtual objects simultaneously in real time.
But of course, it's not all sunshine and holograms. A hyper-connected world comes with immense challenges. There are 3 critical hurdles we've got to manage by 2030. Number 1, the digital divide. How do we ensure equitable access to this ultra-fast internet so we don't accidentally deepen global inequalities? Number 2, ethical AI use. How do we balance the mind-blowing benefits of AI with very real concerns about bias, surveillance, and job displacement? And number 3, the environmental impact. Processing all this data requires massive data centers. How on earth do we sustainably manage their incredible energy consumption?
Which brings us to our final stop, Section 5, Work in the AI Age, Your Daily Grind. AI is no longer a fun novelty. By 2030, it is literally the engine of human productivity. According to data from the Everest Group, an astounding 57% of enterprises expect a productivity uplift of greater than 35%. And that's just from generative and agentic AI technologies. Companies are totally shifting their focus. They aren't looking for small operational tweaks anymore. They want scaled, massive productivity gains driven directly by artificial intelligence.
So the crucial point is where all this processing actually happens. By 2030, more than half of real-time decisions in the workplace will occur at the edge. Now, edge computing basically means processing data right where it's generated, close to you, the user, rather than beaming it all the way back to some centralized server. This drastically reduces delays. It's the exact technology that's going to make autonomous vehicles, smart city grids, and real-time biometric workplace personalization instantly responsive and totally reliable.
So let's paint a picture of your actual Tuesday morning in 2030. Your workplace is highly personalized and augmented. 83% of enterprises expect contextual AI to personalize your apps in real time based on your environment. 70% see AI copilots becoming a non-negotiable core daily tool for every single employee. And because the tools are changing so fast, 82% of companies expect to reskill over 1/3 of their entire workforce. And hey, this isn't just for people sitting in offices. 67% of enterprises expect their frontline workers, folks on factory floors and out in the field, to be using immersive technologies like AR and VR every single day just to do their jobs.
Which leaves us with this one final lingering thought. We've looked at the data. We've seen how global power is shifting, how entire countries are transforming, how our global population is aging, and how internet speeds and AI are going to completely rewrite our daily work routines. The roadmap is clear. So I leave you with this. How are you personally preparing